So Guru, I feel like we should start off by just explaining what is Verizon Media. So we know you have HuffPo, the assets formerly known as AOL and Yahoo, but your boss, Hans Vestberg, has said he doesn't really care about media. You've written off, or the company, Verizon, has written off half the value, you personally, written off half the value of those assets, about $5 billion of assets that were purchased by Verizon in the form of Yahoo and AOL, just poof, that value gone. You've got what's left of them. What is your job? What is your mission?
Okay, it's a good question. First of all, I would say, I'll clarify what Hans said. When we talk about we're not in the media business, it's about the long-form content. You think about what Netflix, Hulu, or Disney Plus, all of these guys are doing. We're not in that business. We're not in the long-form scripted business, but we are in the content business. If you think about news, sports, finance, entertainment as core part of Yahoo, that's definitely part of it. So if you take we've said now our purpose is to create networks that move the world forward. Take that. For us, the three things that matter when you think about media, which is trusted content, creating connections, take like Yahoo Fantasy or HuffPost. They have a lot of deep communities that believe in that content, want to use the utilities that it gives, and then commerce. So that's the three big pillars of what Verizon Media is today and what it's transforming to.
But Verizon Media was previously known as Oath.
Yes.
And Oath was all about advertising.
Yeah.
And the idea that you were going to get a piece of the ad market that's dominated by Google and Facebook. Are you still going after that ad market?
There is a part of it which will go after ad market. So there are three things that we are going into in terms of revenues, right? One is ad. That model is not going to go away. It'll strengthen, but we've got to leave Facebook and Google out. There is still a $100 billion market that's left out. And we are, between us and Microsoft, if we think about it, still the large players out of those two, right? And then second is subscription. So we've started going into deeper premium product, premium content. And then three is transactions. So you saw our sports betting launch that happened last week. We believe in that sports betting. One of the things I was just saying, just September, actually since the football season started, just in New Jersey, online mobile betting wagers was more than $1 billion. You're talking about 2 months, right? So that's a massive thing we're going into transactions. So I would say ad will be core, but then we are diversifying between ad, subscriptions, and commerce.
So if advertising is the biggest piece of your business, and you're competing against these behemoths, do you have any chance of really growing that ad business?
I think you have to start looking at, if you peel the onion on who we are, we're different than Facebook, right? We're different than Google in many ways. So you take our assets, leave Facebook aside, we're the second largest digital asset today. We have 900 million monthly active users who go to our platform globally, right? That's sizable, right? Now you start we've got content assets, which create inspiration, then you've got utilities like mail. Today, mail's rated better than Gmail when you think about personal mail, right? So a lot of those assets are attracting and engaging consumers, and for the first time last quarter, our consumer growth actually happened on mobile. So when you start seeing it, there is a mix of diverse set of signals that we get that Facebook doesn't, right? And that's why I keep saying there is a social side of the piece that advertisers are spending a lot of money, but then when you start looking at content, how it converts to commerce, and the ecosystem we have that is still unique, and that we play in that $100 billion market.
So there were just some publishers on stage talking about growing subscription revenue. How big is your potential subscription audience, and how much of a driver of your business is that going to be?
I would say, look, the vision that I've laid out is, I won't say a timeline, but I would say a third. We want to be ad business, subscription, and commerce. That's a vision that we've laid out. We are, I would say, not even in the first innings of subscription. We've launched Yahoo Finance Premium. We have HuffPost Premium or HuffPost Plus that we launched. TechCrunch has Extra Crunch. Between those three, they're all paid products, and there's also a free version of it. As a member, you get a bit more. I don't think I will give you a size today. I know we are literally doing the 0 to 1 and understanding product market fit, but it is going to be sizable in terms of how much you're betting on it.
I was reporting in the Financial Times that you were going to sell HuffPo.
But we're not selling HuffPost.
Why not?
It's so core to our content. Trusted. If you think about Lydia, I think, did an op-ed recently, who's the HuffPost editor-in-chief, where we talk about HuffPost is truly about people before power. Right? And it's really focused on what people want. And when you think about true trusted content, take now Facebook, Google, and Twitter and other networks, you do have a lot of content that's not valid or verified. And we are focusing on creating good journalism, and giving valid content to consumers. So HuffPost is really a core part of that pillar.
Are there any other assets that you'd want to sell?
No.
So I guess the big picture question is, though, so you have the ad business, you're trying to grow the commerce subscription business. Do you see yourself as really being able to grow this business within Verizon, which is pretty much focused on mobile, its mobile business? Or do you feel like you're managing a sort of declining or smaller asset?
I totally feel we can grow. I'll give a little bit of data point. When I took over last October as the CEO, we were declining, I would say, double digits at that stage. We publicly announced last quarter earnings, we declined 2%. And there are pieces of businesses, I won't name them, where we are growing high double digits. Our mobile, as an example, is now outpacing the desktop decline. That's where most of the decline is happening, is in the desktop business. And mobile was not growing as much, but now, as of last quarter, we've been outpacing desktop. So that's the whole reason we're part of Verizon, where we see, yeah, you have the platform, the infrastructure, when you think about what Verizon being the best network in the US, but then on top of it, when you're started to create this trusted content and having that journey, even in the 5G world, becomes even more and more important to be the first use case to take that advantage.
So backstage, we were talking a little about streaming, because streaming has been the big topic of this conference. You shut down Go90.
Yeah.
It was not a success. So where does the future of sort of being a content play within Verizon fit in? I mean, where do you see yourself as being a partner to help minimize churn, to sort of to play into the wireless business?
If you see, Disney Plus is a great example of that, right? We see now, I'll talk at the Verizon level, we see as a great platform, we're the best network, so we want to give the best content, or whatever you want to call any vertical, we want to have the best player with us. Disney is an iconic brand, iconic set of content and what they're focused on. We could not fight that battle when you think about Go90, right? That's the reason we shut it down. We said, look, that's not for us. We're not going to do the long form media play. You need a very, very long run, and you need to have that much investment to do that, and that's not what you do. But you have a great network. You're creating a great platform. You want to keep plugging in. Apple Music is one of the examples as well. Part of that. YouTube is another one as well.
I guess, I want to hear more about these partners. You have Apple, you have Disney, you have the NFL. But to me, those are clear assets that you're offering to your subscribers to help lock them into the Verizon wireless subscription plan and to minimize churn and to really differentiate in a mobile wireless world, which is very much commoditized, with the exception of those kinds of deals. So I'm wondering, though, when you have those kinds of partnerships, why do you need the TechCrunches and HuffPost of the world? It's not like going to those websites are in any way really solidifying your relationship with your wireless subscribers.
I'll give you two examples. One, take NFL as an example. NFL is live streamed on Yahoo Sports today, also on Yahoo Fantasy Sports, right? Both are, Fantasy is the #1 app in its category. Sports between ESPN and us, we rank up there. That content helps us drive a lot of engagement when you think about that. Now, when you start integrating sports betting, suddenly you're converting content into utility and complete the entire life cycle. So that's a very direct example. When you start taking HuffPost, TechCrunch, Yahoo News, sports, finance, entertainment, I always step back, and one of the biggest things we've done culturally is really bringing that focus on customer. If I sit here in the room, I say, hey, most of us, we poll them and say, do you consume finance? Some form of finance, yes. Do you consume some form of sports? Most of them will say yes. Do you use mail? Some form, yes, right? Do you go deep into tech news when you think about TechCrunch? HuffPost gives you a lot of lifestyle. Every piece of it as a consumer, you're consuming it. What we had in the previous world as Oath and how we are structured, they're all separate entities. Today, what happens in the background is one back-end platform. So what I can do when you think about commerce, when you think about sports betting is a great example, right? Happens in sports, but in my email system, I have 10 million users who have said what teams they like the best. Now think about blending that with when you have a wager that's coming in a legalized state. I can literally push and target in a very personalized way. I'm suddenly using the entire ecosystem. That's where when you think about TechCrunch, HuffPost, everything, they all bring a huge piece of the puzzle together. We are seeing conversion rates on commerce. And a lot of people say, oh, commerce, everybody's doing it in content. But name me one partner who's at this scale in terms of content, who has the utilities like us when you think about mail and others, and search, right? that is driving, last week when we did a big push with a few other partners, we were looking at 25% click-through rate. That's because you have these assets combined now. Independently, when they were separate, you don't get the leverage of scale, right? That's what is the differentiation.
I want to talk about some of these partners. Okay, so Disney Plus,
Yes.
10 million subscribers within, or signups, I think is the term, within one day. How many of those were Verizon?
I knew you were going to ask me that question. I can't answer, but I'm sure there was a good amount of contribution. They're a very important partner. It was a big deal for us, and we made a big announcement around it. So, but that being said, we also have the other asset part of Verizon Media. We are also a massive streaming engine. So we're a big B2B platform. We power Hulu, ABC, Disney Plus, all of them in the ecosystems. At peak, in terms of streaming bandwidth, we saw, this is not Verizon subscribers, but this is across the ecosystem. We saw almost 40% of the traffic go through our streaming engine powering Disney Plus. So
on launch day.
On launch day, at peak, we're doing about 1.5 terabits per second. That's massive when you think about it.
What is that? How does that compare to anything else?
I think it is almost 3 to 4 times more that you'd see normal. And as I said, we power so many other streaming players. So that was a big spike.
Before I ask you more about being the sort of the back end of these streaming platforms, a final Disney Plus question. When your deal with Disney, you're signed on to offer a year free to your wireless subscribers, will you extend that when the year is up? Do you think that'll be enough of a differentiator to Verizon that you want to offer that again?
I don't know.
But do you think it's on the table? Who knows? Okay, so moving on to being sort of the back-end provider, you decide not to be part of the streaming wars yourself. You're partnering with Disney. But what is the potential as all these streaming services hit the market? How many of them do you serve on the back end?
We serve at least the top 1,000 take globally, right? We're a massive global player when you think about the media platform, what used to be called Verizon Digital Media Services. The potential for us, what we have done is we have integrated our ad platform. This is all OTT. So our ad platform and the streaming layer now acts as a massive B2B. So think about this as AWS for streaming in a way, but you now have analytics and ad platform, all of that plugging in. So we like playing that platform layer because, as I said, we're not in creating that long form scripted content. We would rather serve them and help them monetize wherever they want to.
As you look at AT&T go in the totally opposite direction, they just unveiled HBO Max, and you see Elliott criticize AT&T for its investment over the years in media. What do you think about AT&T's strategy?
Look, both of us have different strategies, right? You've seen it. I think Verizon at core, I come back to our purpose, which is creating networks that move the world forward. We're very focused. What Hans has done really well for us as leader, I'm focused, right? We've not created any distraction. If you look at last 1 year journey, coming from where we were declining to now almost flattening, that's a big progress, and assets growing within us. So we are very laser focused on, that's why when we sold Tumblr, as an example, that was no core part of strategy. So I would say we're not in the business of, again, when you think about us, we are not going to be creating massive content businesses, long form content stuff. That's what the play AT&T has taken. We are much stronger when you think about the ad platform as well, because we have our own first-party data. When you start thinking about 900 million monthly active users, that's what we have. We are big digitally. AT&T doesn't have that.
When people make the decision about which wireless carrier they're going to go with, do you think it's going to come down to the content you offer, whether it's Disney or the Apple partnership, versus the HBO Max? Do you think that that's going to be the big play?
I think there are many variables that go into decision making, right? I think content, utilities, or what product you provide, but above all is I think you need to have the best network. The reason Verizon gets ranked as the #1 network is that's our core, right? We are never going to leave that from focus. We are first to 5G. So I think that basic will never go away. And these are all things you keep adding on. Content is going to be one of them. So there is no perfect science to it. Consumers evolve, so we'll evolve with that.
Verizon continues to roll out 5G slowly, and then it's going to come faster next year. But how will 5G change your business? I mean, you just acquired some assets from Jaunt, which is a VR company. Will VR really tip to the mainstream? It hasn't yet.
When you think about 5G, few things. We talk about 8 currencies, right? We talk about in the 4G world, for folks here, used to be speed and throughput. When you think about 5G, it is about 8 currencies. Latency, your battery consumption goes down by 10 times. Your latency, as an example, right now, you're looking at 90 to 100 milliseconds, going to almost 10 milliseconds. So a lot of these things now start impacting use cases when you think about consumer. The first use case, which is very tangible, is media. Right? And we talk about AR. I'll talk about AR, not VR much. AR today is one-off project, right? People go do custom things and it's not scalable. Part of the reason it's not scalable is you don't have the bandwidth, throughput, and latency that's required to have that experience. We've seen now, we're working, let's take NFL as an example. You can be in the 5G world in a stadium where you can have, and we've seen this, most people are using their device as the second screen experience. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're in front of your laptop, you have your mobile on. You're watching TV, you got your mobile on. You're in the stadium, you got your mobile device with you, right? Now, all of a sudden, when I'm there, I have my sports app. I'm going to be able to scan a player. I can watch different angles as, what players are doing. This creates different level of engagement. So that's what media will go towards, which is creating a lot of deeper experiential without latency, because the biggest thing you don't want is you're watching a live game sitting in the stadium and your phone is lagging behind. So that's a simple use case. Now you go into healthcare, manufacturing, every bit of it will transform. Right? That's why we keep saying it's the core of fourth industrial revolution.
So much of your strategy and the core of what you're doing is really about these big partnerships. You mentioned the NFL, we mentioned Disney, Apple, and you have a deal with Walmart when it comes to commerce, which I want to ask you a bit about. But I'm wondering how much more room there is to do more partnerships, and whether you see yourself looking to find more brands, more streaming services, more different, if you're not creating the content yourself, not selling your own streaming service, how many more companies do you want to team up with?
I think it depends. So it depends on Verizon Media versus overall Verizon, right? It comes back to what use cases consumers are looking for. So there are content use cases. We've done that. You've seen it. We're going to be very picky about it, because the last thing we want to do is crowd also consumers about, hey, let's give you all these 100 things, right? In the end, it creates a lot of confusion and distraction. So, but there is, right? The use cases only will get better as you go into the 5G world. For us, when you think about Verizon Media, we have not even scratched the surface. Apple is a great example. We power on the ad side in the new privacy world. We actually do the contextual ad for Apple News today as Verizon Media in UK, Canada, and Australia. That's the first 3 markets we've started with, right? So a lot of those things will open up more and more. That's where we are differentiating as well, coming back to your first question on Google versus Facebook and where we play in. So look, we're just starting. I think there's so much more runway and roadmap.
I have more questions, but I want to open up to audience Q&A. Any questions? If there are no questions, I'm going to ask. Oh, here we go.
So a lot of what you were talking about in terms of partnerships and outlook with Verizon has been to do with things like Disney Plus and live sports. But what about as the proliferation of 5G moves forward, your partnerships with things like Google's recently launched Google Stadia, or what Microsoft's doing with xCloud? Like, what's Verizon's outlook on that, given that the data consumption of those types of partnerships would be exponentially greater?
Sorry, what was the Google piece? I didn't understand.
Stadia, so their gaming streaming service.
Sure. We've got, I can't disclose a lot of the partnerships in play. We've got a lot of them. That's why I say 5G, I would start taking the sectors, like you start taking manufacturing, healthcare, you start going down that. I think we've just started that. So you would put us in the same bucket in a way. Sports is one big one, which you will, because I talk about sport, but it's easy to relate as a consumer. But as you go into the B2B space and a lot of that, there's quite a bit to do there.
Okay.
If there are no more questions, I want to get to the content piece, because this is the commerce piece. You've had a background in content and advertising, but now as you try to build out commerce, it's really a new direction. Explain how you're going to be a big commerce player. What are you selling?
So I'll step back. If you think about our ecosystem again, right, you have content. So take HuffPost, TechCrunch to Engadget, the Yahoo ecosystem, AOL ecosystem. So that creates what we call creates inspiration. Consumers are coming, a new mom wants to read about what that means. You've got a lot of that content that HuffPost does to the entire spectrum. You want to read about tech and all of that. So that's creating inspiration. And then the second big piece is utility. So you think about mail where you're logged in, you've shown your interest, you're saying these are the offers and deals that I want to be shown so I can go transact. So that creates that. And then you have search. We are still a significant player in the search world where people are coming in and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. So when you start looking at that scale, right, again, take the 900 million users monthly, that creates a massive data layer in terms of, okay, I know now what inspires you and what utilities you're using to convert on them. So now when you think about content to commerce, we're doing right now is affiliate deals, right? What we've done with, today we announced eBay. We've done that with Walmart. We've done a lot of Gen Z brands, you know, Winky Lux to Champion to, so a lot of them have come in. So we are doing all categories because our consumers come in, our consumers are broad set, right? They don't come in, Engadget maybe a lot of electronics and those things, but then the minute you go to HuffPost, a lot of lifestyle related content and commerce. The minute you go to Yahoo Entertainment and lifestyle there, you've got celebrities who are like, you know, you like certain dress or a handbag, again, integrating affiliate into it. So that's what we're doing right now as phase one.
And so what kind of percentage cut are you taking from these?
We are anywhere from 10 to 15% right now.
And so it sounds like it's two things. It's the advertising with the very quick transition, frictionless, click here to buy.
Yes.
Which I know Instagram is working on as well. Carolyn Everson was here yesterday.
Yeah.
But then there's also the, like, here's an article about something, click here to buy the jersey, and just doing it as sort of frictionless as possible.
And the content piece, so we launched a brand called In the Know, which is mainly targeted on Gen Z and younger millennials. It's purely short form video content. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on our network, does about 1 billion monthly views today. And it is premium content. It's created by us, short form. And part of that is there's a lot of commercial intent. These are all new brands people are liking to engage with. And now we've seen brands coming and sponsoring and helping us create educational videos around brands as well. So a lot of that is in that bucket. But we are, what I've seen, what surprised me as well, I think I mentioned to you earlier, we've seen click-through rates of 25%. I won't mention conversion because even that's above industry average. So that just tells me that for us, the scale is a big differentiator versus you start seeing other media companies going into it. I think that connected ecosystem of scale helps us a lot.
Just a final question. A lot of what you're talking about, a lot of what you're doing is stuff that other companies are doing in the media landscape. And you're doing it within Verizon.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge of tackling these three different areas, you know, content or advertising content, commerce, and now subscriptions also within this parent company that's a wireless giant, but maybe not as focused on media, or definitely not as focused on media as it used to be?
I would say, look, the biggest challenge right now for us, what we've done is we've gone and improved our products quite a bit. I don't think we've gone and marketed and targeted consumers well and explained who we are. That's something we'll be focused on now that I see products better than 50 NPS when I take some of our core products doing so well and having core consumer base. So I think that's been, when I say challenge, I think that's one we've not invested in and done it because the focus was, let's fix the foundation. I think the second one is there is, you know, the distraction always, right? Everybody's still questioning, saying, are you core part of Verizon or not? And I keep saying, I think we've said this many times, right? We are core. There is a reason we changed from Oath to Verizon Media because that's our parents and we want the last name, right? You're core part of that ecosystem. So that, I hope, it's more of a media challenge, external perception versus internal. And then 3 is going to be how fast we can start showing growth. And these 3 things where we're investing and trying to grow aggressively will show that us.
Fantastic. Guru, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you all.